The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, Hamilton is smack dab on the shores of Lake Ontario between the beautiful city of Toronto and the infamous Niagara Falls, and we're smack dab in the middle of the Great Lakes Triangle. Now, the Great Lakes Triangle is just like the Bermuda Triangle, except we're 16 times smaller, and we're also on the agonic line like the big guys are. And, you know, there's been more ghost ships sighted, more sea monsters sighted, more UFOs sighted, more shipping lost, more people disappeared, lost in the Great Lakes Triangle than in the Bermuda Triangle. Just a little bit of trivia there for you, Exo Nation. My guest this hour is J. Allan Danelek. We're talking about his new book that is out. It's by our good friends at Llewellyn's, called 2012. And J. Allan Danelek, welcome back to the X Zone. And why do you think, Jeff, that there is such a hoopla being made over the year 2012? And is 2012 going to be a disaster, or is it just the beginning of another cycle?
Well, hey, Rob, it's great to be on your show again. It's been a while.
I know.
I think that the hoopla is largely contrived. It's kind of like Y2K. How people got kind of carried away with that as the media became more aware of it and began to publicize it. It seems like it's attracted a lot of attention from people who have their own sort of takes on the end times and have just found this 2012 date to be a nice place to hang it. And so I think that's really a lot of it is contrived. Whether I think anything bad's going to happen in 2012 or not, I'm kind of the school of thought that believes that some bad things will probably happen that year, just like they do every year, and probably some good things too. But in terms of the end of the world, I'm not thinking so.
Yeah, I'd like to see firsthand a number of people who are writing all these doom and gloom books saying that, 2012 is the December 21st, 2012 is the end of the world. Some people are saying it's Armageddon as talked about in the book of Revelations. Other people are saying that there's a massive comet or asteroid headed this way. Other people are saying that it's going to be the return of Planet X or Nibiru or whatever you want to call it. And I'd love to have all these people in a giant room somewhere filled with closed-circuit TV cameras and just watch the expressions on their faces go from, see, I told you, to, oh my God, I've been caught. Now that, to me, would be a great reality show.
Well, actually, I was letting you know that I'm taking $1 million bets on this. So if it does end on that day, I'm willing to pay $1 million. And if it doesn't, of course, I'm ready to collect.
Jeff, I'm just doing something that I consider to be right for the moment. I'm going to make sure that all my credit cards still get paid up to date and that my mortgage is paid to date. Because I don't want to take any chances. And Jeff, you and I are good friends. We've known each other a number of years. I wouldn't give you $1 million on this bet, pal.
Well, I figure, this is a way I have nothing to lose because, if it does end, how are you going to get the million out of me?
We have ways, Mind you, that'd be a great topic for a book.
Yeah.
Leave it to...
I'll have to write one like that.
As if you haven't thought of it already. Listen, you and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you more about your book and some of the very interesting points that you bring up about not only this end of the world, but the many endings of the world prior. And I'd also like to ask you some questions about people like Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, and other prognosticators of doom and gloom, including, we'll throw in Puxatani Phil for good measure, because today has just been like Groundhog Day around here. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free. Allan Danelek and I will return on the other side of this commercial break. His website is ourcuriousworld.com, and we'll both be back, hopefully soon. Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits, and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Oh yeah, sure. You've got those who want to change the world, and then you've got those who say the world's going to come to an end one way or another. The Mayan calendar predicts, or the Mayans have been misquoted, apparently, by people believing that the end of the Mayan calendar means the end of the world. I once had the opportunity of speaking to a Mayan elder, Jeff, and I said that, and he started laughing, and I felt like a total idiot. He said, "Where in the name of heaven did you ever hear that the world was going to end because our calendar came to an end?" And he's doubled over, and he's just killing himself laughing. I said, what's so funny? He said, "What happens when something ends? It starts again." And he kept on laughing, and he walked away from me laughing his head off.
Well, yeah, it's like your car. As soon as the odometer rolls over 1,000,000 miles,
Exactly.
Your car doesn't explode.
Jeff, what was your inspiration for writing your book on 2012?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I was getting a little concerned about how afraid people were getting about this stuff. And I thought that, there's so many books out there telling you that the world's going to end. I thought I would come up with one that looked at prophecy a little more objectively in hopes of kind of calming people down a little bit. And the other part, I think, has to do with my background. When I was active in the fundamentalist churches because of Hal Lindsey.
Yeah.
And his end times prophecies, Late Great Planet Earth, back in the 70s. And then when that didn't come to fruition, I thought, this is a scam. And I think that people need to know about this just for their own safety, if nothing else. So that was kind of the two reasons I got into it.
There is a website that has now been launched by NASA all about 2012. It's entitled 2012, Beginning of the End, or Why the World Won't End. And some of the other websites that have now come out after this, NASA also has another one under Astrobiology Institute, Nibiru and Doomsday 2012. Bad Astronomy has the Planet X Saga, the scientific arguments in a nutshell. And then even Sky and Telescope magazine has come out with 2012, The Great Scare.
Well, yeah, I think they were getting probably inundated with so many requests for this stuff, that they had no choice but to put up a website and see if that didn't take care of most of the problem.
Last week with the launch of the movie 2012, more people are talking about 2012 than ever before, except no one seems to know a little bit of trivia, but I know you know, that the same person who produced and directed Independence Day is the producer and director of 2012.
Well, there's big money in the end of the earth, I guess.
Big money. But why are people so hyped about this, Jeff? Now, you've been in the UFO field and surrounding genres for a number of years. Why has this one caught the masses?
Well, I think a big part of it is that it's based upon this sort of mysterious ancient calendar that people don't really understand. And I think we give a lot of credit to the ancients. We think that they had this insight into the future that we lack in our contemporary society. So a lot of people give that a lot more credibility than they would otherwise. I also think that a lot of people take advantage of it, and they pretend to know all about this calendar, and the average person doesn't really understand what's going on with it. And unless you do some research on your own, you're not going to figure it out. So we just have a tendency, I think, to defer to people we consider to be experts at our own peril, actually. And that's, I think, a big driving factor behind it.
Let's take a look at some of the seers or prophets of modern times. We've got Nostradamus. Everybody talks about Nostradamus and how good he was, how accurate he was, how he knew things that other people could not possibly know. But in every show that I've seen on Nostradamus, the people who claim to be experts about him seem to know how to manipulate what he says, his little quatrains or his little poems. How they portray them can be portrayed so many different ways that the same quatrain can actually fit the similar patterns to 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 different events.
Well, that's the whole key to prophecy is you have to make it obscure enough that it can fit almost any kind of contemporary situation you want to plug in there. And Nostradamus was a master at this. He wrote in a kind of a code sort of way,
right,
to protect himself largely from disfavor from nobility, if you will, because he would kind of satire his own age. And a lot of people take these things and they say, aha, he's talking about our times, because we tend to see everything through the filter of the early 21st century. For example, in World War II, the Germans thought that Nostradamus' quatrains were talking about their imminent victory, and the Allies thought it was talking about their imminent defeat. And I guess both are right to a degree.
I understand that Nostradamus made reference to a Hitler, and that people actually said that Hitler was Nostradamus' way of signifying Hitler.
Well, because the names are so close, Hitler and Hisler are just a couple letters different. A lot of people thought, this is a reference to Hitler. Actually, Hisler was the medieval name for the Rhine or the Danube River. It's either the Rhine or the Danube. I think it's the Danube. And so it was kind of an ancient name for the river. So what he's really talking about is has nothing really to do with Hitler whatsoever. It just happened to be a coincidence that the names were that close together.
So why do people think that Nostradamus is this great seer if basically it was his quatrains are based on present-day events with representations and similarities made thousands of years ago?
Well, a lot of it is because the quatrains are so difficult to understand that if someone comes by and pretends to be an expert on them and tells you this is what it says, the average person doesn't know any different, and they'll go ahead and take their word for it and come away being impressed that Nostradamus got so many things right.
How many things did Nostradamus actually get right, as far as you know, compared to his percentages of being wrong?
Well, obviously, his percentage. Well, it's not that he was wrong. It's just that a lot of what he writes about, we have no idea what he's talking about.
Okay.
And none of these experts do it, so we don't know if he's right or wrong about some of these contemporary things he's writing about. I think the closest he got to a hit was a quatrain he wrote about the king being killed in a joust in 1559. And that actually, he'd say he was going to have his eye taken out from inside a golden cage, which was a reference to his helmet and things like this. And actually, King Henry II of France was killed in a jousting match shortly after he wrote that. So that's probably the closest that he ever got to being correct. And of course, it's not that amazing when you consider that King Henry enjoyed jousting, and he did it quite often. It was only a matter of time before he had a rather nasty accident. So it may be prophetic. It may have just been a really good guess. He may have been referring to some other king. I don't know, but that's the closest he's ever come to being right.
Okay, let's take a look at Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. Now, a lot of people once again give Edgar Cayce a lot of kudos, and yet, what do we know about him besides the fact that he came up with some rather amazing stuff while he was asleep and. What's his story?
Well, Cayce was actually more or less known as he was called the sleeping prophet. He would talk about people's illnesses. People would come to him and say, I've got this pain in my leg that I've had for years. And he would go into this trance and he would tell them, he would diagnose it basically from the trance. And often these turned out to be really, fairly accurate. Later on in his other readings, he started talking about future events. He started talking about reincarnation and Atlantis and things like that.
Right.
And that's what we kind of remember him for, more than these prognostications about health issues. But what he said was, that some of it was interesting. A lot of it was very timely. He was a very voluminous reader. He read a lot of stuff, so it was only natural he would pick up information just out of the media that allowed him to make some of these guesses. I think that Edgar Cayce was a sincere and honest man who really believed he had this gift, but I do believe he was also picking up information from normal sources and integrating them into his hypnotic states as though they were some sort of a revelation.
You know, we hear that these great seers and prophets gather their information from the Akashic Records. Apparently, this is the universal library of all. Do you believe in that?
Well, I don't know. I'm undecided. You know, I've written a book on reincarnation years ago, and I know that there's probably some kind of a record-keeping system, if you will, or some kind of life review. If you want to call it the Akashic Records, that's probably as good a name as anything else. If it helps you understand, then it's probably useful. But I don't think I'd make a big deal about it. You know, I think that it's a tendency to simplify what may be a very complex process of life review, and that made sense to him, and so it may be useful to other people, but I don't really have much use for it myself.
Jeff Danelek's our very special guest, Jeff Allan Danelek. His website is www.ourcuriousworld.com. That's www.ourcuriousworld.com. And we have some late-breaking news that I'd like to share with you, listeners. Bob White, who was a ufologist who claimed years ago to have found a part of a flying saucer or something from outer space, passed away earlier today after an automobile accident that he had 2 weeks ago. So to the family of Bob White, to his friends, colleagues, and to all those who knew Bob, our deepest prayers and condolences are with each and every one of you at this time. And I've had the pleasure of talking to Bob a number of times, and he will always be remembered very kindly in my thoughts and in my prayers. The name of our guest's book, Jeff Allan Danelek's book, is entitled 2012, and it can be purchased at www.llewellyn.com, or if you go to www.ourcuriousworld.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue live and around the world right here on Talkstar.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Welcome back to the X Zone. My special guest this hour is Jeff Allan Danelek. His website is www.ourcuriousworld.com. Jeff has another brand new spanking book out. It's called 2012. It's published by our good friends at Llewellyn's. And once again, his website is www.ourcuriousworld.com. In your opinion, after written so many books on whether it's ufology, reincarnation, or now the year 2012, what is the common thread that everyone looks for when stepping outside of what most people call reality and entering into the fringe zone, that zone that you and I discuss all the time?
The incentive for believing in end-time prophecies.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Well, I think that there's a number of reasons that people believe these things. Some people are just, they see the world kind of going to pot in their head, and so they think that this is kind of God going to step in and fix everything. Mm-hmm. That's kind of one of the reasons. I think a lot of it also is because it's exciting. People think that if these things all happen, that's really going to be, pretty spectacular.
Yeah, but excuse me for cutting in, but
sure,
who would actually think that the end of the world is exciting? What kind of nutcase would that be?
Well, you got to think in terms of people whose lives are very sedate. Now, remember, a lot of these prophecies are a series of events happening in short order. The rapture and then the tribulation period and the war of Armageddon, all these stuff. And that can be, to some people who find that, that stuff interesting or exciting. I mean, these are your gamers. I don't know, people who are always sitting there playing these videos and stuff. But there are some people like that I've met that are kind of, I think they're sort of into exciting events happening down the road.
Yes, but hasn't the light clicked on for these people yet that there have been so many end-time prophecies that have come to pass and not one of them, thank God, has been right?
I don't think most people think that way. Most people aren't really aware of what happened in the past, and a lot of that's because when a prophecy doesn't come to fruition, it tends to sort of just vanish into the ether. And then, these people who are making these predictions are not brought out the next day and said, hey, what happened here? What's going on? Why wasn't this correct? They just tend to ignore the fact that it failed and move on to the next date. So this lack of accountability for these people who make these predictions, to me, is, I think, what keeps driving them, because there's really no downside to making the prediction. Nobody's going to hold you accountable for it if you're wrong.
1-877-528-8255 is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X-Zone on Talkstar. My special guest this hour is Allan Danelek, Jeff Allan Danelek, and we're talking about his new book, 2012. It's published by our good friends at Llewellyn's. And you know what? Our research has just passed me a note saying that there have been end-of-world predictions going back so many years that they came up with the end of the world 1925, August 1953, April 1957, and 1960, 1967, 1970, 1973, 1975, 1977, 1979, 1981, 1982, 1984, 86, 87, 88, 89, 91, 92.
Well, you only have to be right once.
Yeah, and people still keep on believing that the end of the world is coming. Well, yes, it is coming, but no one knows when. No one knows how. And what really boggles my mind, Jeff, is when you get a devout Christian who knows the Bible inside out and tells us that, you know what? We're in the time of Revelation. How do you, and you say, well, how do you know that? Well, look at what's going on around you.
Yeah, Jack Van Impe has a show here in the States. He does this. He's been doing this for years and years and years, talking about how all the events he sees in the newspaper, and there's not an event he sees in the newspaper he can't fit in there, is all showing that Jesus is coming any day now.
But the part that they forget to tell you, and that I don't think very many people know, it says in the Bible, no one will know the time, the date, or the place. No one.
Well, how to get around that is that Jesus also says, when you see these events happening, you'll know the time is near. So what they say is, you can't know the exact time, but you can know kind of the general frame.
Oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. That's why you're going to get that $1 million from everyone.
Yeah, I'm counting. I've already got it spent.
What has been the most ironic end-of-the-world prediction that you've come across in doing research for your book?
Oh, ironic? Boy, I don't really know what I would call ironic. I guess the thing I found most surprising was that a lot of scientists seem to get on board with these. Because I've been watching, on TV, on Discovery History Channel, they have these specials on the disaster of the week. And they'll talk about the asteroid coming in, or they'll talk about super volcanoes, or Earth shift or something. And it's like every week they have some new disaster du jour that is supported by some science that really gets people, I think, even more concerned. Not just global warming, but I'm talking all kinds of things that could happen.
Yeah. Black
holes and cosmic explosions and things that are like a 1 in a trillion chance of them happening, but they act like this is something that we have to be watching out for at any minute.
It's pretty bad when people like NASA have to actually get involved in an end-time prediction, because I'm sure that this isn't what we're spending money on space exploration for, is the end of the world investigation by our space agency.
Well, my guess is that probably some junior engineer got tasked with it, and so he got stuck for that.
When you meet people on your meet and greets, as authors do, what is the main question that you get asked about 2012?
Well, obviously they just say, is it really going to happen? Did the Mayans really predict this? Mm-hmm. And the thing that's frustrating is that people could actually go to their internet and pull up Mayan calendar, and they can read all about it themselves.
Yes, but you're an expert. You're an expert.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if calling up doing some research around the internet, it makes me an expert. I guess so, but it doesn't. I mean, anybody can become one.
Oh, sure.
If they take about a half an hour.
Oh, sure. And you want people to give you $1 million after that? Forget it.
No, but that's the thing, is they just really want to know how real this is, and there's often a lot of fear, especially from young people, because they really do worry about the future, whether they're going to see their 30th birthday and stuff, and it's kind of sad. You just got to sit there and say, look, just live your life, each day at a time, and if every day's a gift, and you'll be fine.
I was just browsing through the NASA website before you and I started chatting, and I thought you'd get a kick out of this. It's questions and answers, right? When one question is, does the Mayan calendar end in December 2012? And here's NASA's answer, all right? Just as the calendar you have on your kitchen wall does not cease to exist after December 31st, the Mayan calendar does not cease to exist on December 21st, 2012. The date is the end of the Mayan long count period, but then, just as your calendar begins again on January the 1st, another long count period begins for the Mayan calendars.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it, and if people understood that, it would take a lot of the 2012 mystery out. But the problem is, at this point, it's gotten so embellished with other people making end-time predictions around it, that even if you convince people that the Mayans did not predict the end, there are other people out there who have already convinced you in other areas. So just, debunking one thing won't fix the problem. It's kind of a whole big area that needs to be fixed.
Exactly, because we're just not now talking about the Mayan calendar. And by the way, according to Travel Resource, trips to the Mayan temples are up 276%.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised.
Wow.
People are into this stuff.
Talk about really marketing. Good. Whoa. But you see, we're just not talking about the Mayan calendar here. We're talking about Nibiru. We're talking about Planet X. We're talking about the solar storms. We're talking about the poles reversing. That was interesting. They have everything.
I was watching. I went to see 2012 this weekend, and their premise was that it was a solar flare that was basically going to destroy the Earth. And the way they did it was very bizarre, but that was what their contention was.
All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, what would you rate it as?
Well, in terms of entertainment, probably about a 6 or a 7. In terms of science, about a 1 or a 2 maybe. But I mean, it's an entertaining movie, but it's just not very scientific.
By the way, X-Zone Nation, Jeff was seen in the lobby selling his books in between the different showings of it.
Yeah, it was signed though.
Well, there you go. You see, and then you complain when one of your fans has the audacity to ask you what 2012 is all about, or is buying calendars about. Jeff, that wasn't very nice.
I never complain. I just thank them very profusely.
Oh, I know. I was just kidding with you, pal.
Yeah, I know.
Nibiru, do you give any credence to the possibility of that outer planet that affects, makes a visit once in a while, as Sitchin talks about this ancient, giant-sized planet?
Yeah, I read this book of his when he first introduced this theory a number of years ago, and I got through this thing, and I thought, my goodness, I mean, where does he get this from? You know, it's so speculative. He's got nothing at all to support it. You know, it's a little bit of like Eric von Däniken stuff, where we were visited by ancient aliens, and he just took these from being aliens from another solar system and just put them on our solar system, and gave this planet a name. And I don't know. I think that a lot of these things have been out there for a while, and people have been interested in it. But when 2012 came along, they were able to tie it all together, and that's what gave these things kind of a renewed emphasis.
Speaking about NASA, we just received a fax from NASA, as I'm sure every other media outlet has, to be careful and to be aware that there are fake NASA press releases being sent out. Give me a break.
I am never surprised at the cleverness of hoaxers.
Now, why would somebody use a fax as a fake press release when all you have to do is trace the number back and find out who the Gomer Pyle is that's sending these faxes out?
Well, the idea is you shoot as many of these out as you can, and some people are going to ignore them, some people are going to trace it back and figure out who it was, but most of them are just going to pick up with it and run with it, because there's a lot of people out there maintaining websites that are not very responsible about checking their sources. And so that's how these things get generated over and over again. Just like the urban legend that Mr. Rogers was a Vietnam War veteran before he started his show. You know, that goes around and people put it out there, and all of a sudden everybody believes it without ever checking about it.
So do you think we should put 2012 in the category of urban legend?
Yeah, pretty much. I really do. I think it's one of those things that is, it sort of grew by leaps and bounds, just with conjecture and speculation and suggestion, and it's like in any urban legend, you can't really tell where it originated from. It just sort of came out of nowhere and will probably die and go off nowhere.
Stand by, Jeff. You and I have to take our final break. Jeff Allan Danelek is our very special guest this hour. www.ourcuriousworld.com, the name of his new book, 2012. Jeff and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues, right here live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free, and I always welcome your emails, whether you're a fake from NASA or not, to xzone@talkstarradio.com. We'll be back. Don't go.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Jeff Allan Danelek's my special guest this hour, X-Zone. His new book, 2012, is out. It's published by the good people at Llewellyn's. His website is www.ourcuriousworld.com. That's www.ourcuriousworld.com. And once again, the name of the book is 2012. During the commercial break, you and I were briefly comparing notes pertaining to 2012 and to Y2K. You know, I one of the calls I remember most vividly about the Y2K time was an elderly lady who called me up. She must have been past 80 years old, and she was a twin. Her and her sister lived together. And she was called up crying because she couldn't afford to buy any more of the frozen food that they would need to survive after Y2K. You know, they had already cashed in all their bonds and bought this, that, and the other thing. And you know, my heart goes out to these kind of people, these people who get taken in by by members of the media who for their own needs push the envelope a little bit further than they should. Jeff, what would you like to tell the listeners around the world right now about 2012?
I would just urge them to take a deep breath and look at the history of prophecies like this and recognize the fact that this is a big business, that people enjoy doing this. They don't realize that this impacts people on a very personal level. And just do a little research, look around, and hopefully they will come away with this sense that, good things and bad things are going to happen just like they always have. But, time is really eternal. It's going to go on, and, your children are going to see, the morning, and so are your grandchildren. And just kind of hold on to that and just live each day to its fullest. That's the best thing you can do.
And, Jeff, tell our listeners where they can buy copies of your book and more about your website.
Well, they're in all the bookstores. If you don't see it in there, that's not a good bookstore, so get out of there. But,
well, that's because they just got sold out.
That's right. Well, yeah, if that's the case, then it's an okay bookstore. Barnes & Noble, Borders, all have them. You can go to Amazon, or you can go to my website, and I'll give you a link there. It'll take you over to Llewellyn, where you can order it, and you can also see the other things on there, or even send me an email if you want to talk about this stuff.
Super. As always, Jeff, always great having you on the show. The next time you're on, I'd love to talk to you about reincarnation.
I would love that, Rob. That'd be great.
Jeff, take care of yourself. Thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you for doing the great work that you do.
Well, thanks a lot, Rob. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Take care, old friend. Bye-bye now. Jeff Allan Danelek, www.ourcuriousworld.com. That's www.ourcuriousworld.com. Well, that's it for tonight, X-Zone Nation. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all the great people here at X-Zone Radio TV and Master Controls all over the place. To my wife and senior producer, the lovely Laura Rogers, thank you. And to you, the members of the X-Zone Nation, thank you for allowing us to be part of your day or night, no matter where you are on this great big world of ours. If you have a child at home, give them a hug, give them a kiss. Let them know they are loved, because children are the leaders of tomorrow, and they will be leading us way past December 21st, 2012. So until tomorrow night, when once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night now.